Sir Alexander Fleming was the discoverer of penicillin. He was born on the 6th of August, 1881, at Lockfield Farm in Ayrshire, Scotland. Alexander was the third child of Hugh Fleming and his second wife, Grace Sterling Morton. He grew up almost entirely without his father, who died when Alexander was just 7 years old. As a young student, Fleming attended Ludenmore School, a school that is famously connected to the great Scotsman William Wallace. You may have seen Wallace portrayed by actor Mel Gibson in the movie Braveheart. Later, Fleming attended Darvel School. After earning a 2-year scholarship at Kilmarnock Academy, he moved to London and attended the Royal Polytechnic Institution, known today as the University of Westminster. His older brother Tom was a practicing physician, and he suggested that Alexander work towards a similar career. This was the inspiration that led Alexander to pursue a life of science. So, he enrolled in the prestigious St. Mary's Hospital Medical School. Today, the hospital pays tribute to Fleming for his discovery of penicillin.
Before World War I, Alexander Fleming worked in St. Mary's Hospital in the inoculation department. He was working with Almoth Wright, who was one of the leading bacteriologists in the 18th century. In 1914, World War I broke out and Fleming, at age 33, joined the army, becoming a captain in the Royal Army Medical Corps working in field hospitals in France. He noticed many deaths were happening under the care of the doctors and suspected that it had something to do with the way that the doctors were treating the wounds. The doctors were using antiseptics to clean battle wounds. With a great desire to prove his hypothesis, he created some experiments. With little to no research equipment in a field hospital, he used his glass-blowing skills to create some of the glass equipment that he needed. The antiseptics being used, such as carbolic acid, boric acid, and hydrogen peroxide, were failing to kill bacteria deep in wounds, and they were in fact lowering the soldiers' natural resistance to infection because they were killing white blood cells. Thus, he established that antiseptic agents used to treat wounds and prevent infection were actually killing more soldiers than the infections were. Fleming then demonstrated that antiseptic agents were only useful in treating superficial wounds but were harmful when applied to deep wounds. Almoth Wright, a colleague from St. Mary's Hospital, believed that a saline solution, salt water, for example, should be used to clean deep wounds, because this did not interfere with the body's own defenses and in fact attracted white blood cells. Fleming proved this result in the field. Wright and Fleming published their results, but most army doctors refused to change their ways, resulting in many preventable deaths.
Before Alexander Fleming's discovery of penicillin, there were no effective treatments for curing common bacterial or fungal infections. Hospitals were often full of people with blood poisoning contracted from something as simple as a cut or a scratch, and doctors, unable to do anything but help and provide comfort, had no choice but to wait and pray for the disease to pass. Upon returning from holiday on September 3rd, 1928, Fleming began to sort through a stack of petri dish cultures containing Staphylococcus aureus bacteria at his lab in St. Mary's Hospital, London. He noticed something unusual about one dish in particular. It was dotted with colonies like the others, except for an area where a blob of mold was growing. The zone immediately around the mold, later identified as a rare strain of Penicillium notatum, was clear, as if the mold had secreted something that inhibited bacterial growth. After testing this mold juice on other samples and finding out that it was capable of killing a wide range of harmful bacteria such as Streptococcus, Meningococcus, and the diphtheria bacillus, he set his assistants to work to try isolate the molecule responsible, which proved to be difficult and the product unstable. Fleming published his findings about the molecule, which he called penicillin, in the British Journal of Experimental Pathology in June 1929, but only made a passing reference to penicillin's potential medical benefits, seeing instead the possibilities for the compound in differentiating different bacterial species in research. It wasn't until years later that researchers from Oxford University, Howard Florey and Ernest Chain, became avidly interested in penicillin's antibiotic potential in medicine.
We'll wrap up our discussion by covering the long-term impact that Fleming and his discoveries had on the world. The discovery of penicillin marked the beginning of modern antibiotics. The use of penicillin has saved millions of lives and is still saving lives every single day. For his discovery, Alexander Fleming won the 1945 Nobel Prize in Physiology and Medicine. This was shared with two other scientists who contributed to the isolation and production of penicillin. The Fleming Museum in London was built in Alexander Fleming's honor. He also was awarded the Medal for Merit by the President of the United States. In 1944, he was knighted by King George VI, and Fleming even has an asteroid named after him, 91006 Fleming. In 1999, he was named by Time magazine one of the 100 most important people of the 20th century. They stated, "It was a discovery that would change the course of history. The active ingredient in that mold, which Fleming named penicillin, turned out to be an infection-fighting agent of enormous potency. When it was finally recognized for what it was, the most efficacious life-saving drug in the world, penicillin would alter forever the treatment of bacterial infections." By the middle of the century, Fleming's discovery had spawned a huge pharmaceutical industry, churning out synthetic penicillins that would conquer some of mankind's most ancient scourges, including syphilis, gangrene, and tuberculosis. As we can see, Fleming's discovery of penicillin, which was a self-proclaimed accident, would forever alter the course of history.